Have you ever looked at your child and thought, they did this yesterday, so why won't they do it now? And then immediately wondered if you were being too lenient or not firm enough or somehow doing something wrong. Here's the truth most parents were never taught. There is a huge difference between won't and can't. And misreading one as the other can turn everyday moments into power struggles, shame, and burnout for both you and your child. Today, we're breaking down what can't really looks like, why it's so often mistaken for won't, and how understanding the difference can completely change how you respond. Ready? Because this is Kind Parent Collective. Less perfect parent, more real one. Why this distinction matters so much. When we assume a child won't do something, our response usually involves pressure, reminders, consequences, rewards, or lectures. But when a child can't do something, pressure doesn't help, it makes things worse. For neurodivergent kids especially, behavior is deeply connected to nervous system regulation, sensory processing, emotional capacity, and cognitive load. When we mislabel a can't moment as won't, we often escalate situations that actually need support. Understanding this distinction doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means responding accurately, and that's where real progress begins. What won't usually looks like. Let's clarify what won't actually means. Won't is about choice. It's when a child has access to the skill, the regulation, and the understanding, but is choosing not to engage. This might look like testing boundaries, saying no during play or negotiation, preferring one activity over another, expressing autonomy in a safe moment. Won't moments usually happen when a child is relatively calm, regulated, and able to engage socially. There's flexibility present even if there's resistance. And importantly, true won't moments are far less common than we're led to believe. What can't actually looks like. Can't is about capacity, not character. A child might want to comply, participate, or respond, but their nervous system or brain simply doesn't have access to the skill in that moment. Can't can look like freezing or shutting down, ignoring instructions, melting down over small requests, losing skills they previously showed, becoming rigid or inflexible, avoiding eye contact or communication. These aren't choices, they're signals. When a child is dysregulated, their brain shifts into survival mode. Higher level skills like listening, problem solving, and emotional control become temporarily unavailable. Why neurodivergent kids are misread so often. Neurodivergent children are especially vulnerable to being misunderstood because their internal experience doesn't always match external expectations. They may mask well in certain environments, appear capable one moment and overwhelm the next, have uneven skill development, be highly sensitive to sensory or emotional input. This variability can confuse adults. If a child can do something sometimes, we assume they should be able to do it all the time. But skills are not stored in a constant access drawer. They're dependent on regulation, energy, safety, and stress levels. In other words, ability is conditional. Stress is the biggest skill blocker. Stress is one of the fastest ways to turn can into can't. When stress rises from transitions, sensory overload, social demands, fatigue, or emotional pressure, the brain prioritizes survival over cooperation. That's why a child might follow instructions in the morning, but not after school, communicate clearly at home, but not in public, regulate during calm play, but not during transitions. It's not defiance, it's biology. Why repeating yourself doesn't fix can't. When adults see non-compliance, the instinct is often to repeat instructions louder, firmer, more frequently. But if a child can't access the skill, repetition just adds more stress. To the nervous system, repeated demands sound like, you're not safe, you're failing, you're trapped, This can escalate shutdowns, meltdowns, or complete disengagement, even when the child wants to cooperate. The emotional cost of being misunderstood. Being treated like you won't when you actually can't is emotionally exhausting. Over time, children may internalize messages like,
"I'm lazy. I'm bad. I always mess up. No one understands me."
This is why the can't versus won't distinction is not just behavioral, it's emotional and relational. Children do best when they feel believed. A simple way to tell the difference. Here's a helpful question to ask yourself in the moment. Is my child regulated enough to access this skill right now? Signs: it's a calm moment, big emotion or shutdown, sensory overwhelm, rigid thinking, difficulties communicating, physical tension or avoidance. Signs: it might be a won't moment, calm refusal, playful resistance, negotiation, clear communication, emotional flexibility. This isn't about being permissive, it's about being accurate. Why support is not the same as letting go. Many parents worry that acknowledging can't means giving up expectations. It doesn't. Support is what restores capacity. That might mean offering help instead of consequences, reducing demands temporarily, breaking tasks into smaller steps, co-regulating before problem solving, waiting until the nervous system settles. Support doesn't erase skills, it protects them. What happens when we respond to can't correctly? When children feel supported instead of pressured, something powerful happens. They begin to recover faster, re-engage more willingly, trust adults more deeply, build long-term regulation skills. Ironically, reducing pressure often leads to more cooperation, not less. Why consistency alone isn't the answer. Parents are often told, just be consistent, but consistency without flexibility can ignore the nervous system entirely. Neurodivergent kids don't need rigid responses. They need responsive consistency. Same values, different supports. That's not inconsistency, that's attunement. How this changes your parenting experience. Once you truly understand can't versus won't, parenting feels less like constant conflict and more like collaboration. You stop asking, why won't they just listen? And start asking, what's getting in the way right now? That shift alone reduces burnout, guilt, and self-doubt. What your child needs you to know. Your child isn't trying to be difficult. They're navigating a world that often asks more than their nervous system can give. When you recognize can't, you become a safe place, not another demand. And safety is where growth actually happens. Won't is about choice. Can't is about capacity. And when we respond to capacity with compassion instead of consequences, we don't lose authority. We build trust. That trust is what allows children to access skills more often, more consistently, and with greater confidence over time. If this perspective feels different from what you were taught, that's okay. Many of us are learning to parent with more understanding than we were given. If today's video helped you see your child with a little more clarity and a little less blame, then you're already doing something very right. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if today was rough, you still did enough. Catch you on the next one.